Today's episode is brought to you by the critically acclaimed and crowd favorite Owlie's Award Show.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, buddy. I'm feeling mighty 4-0 at the moment. I don't know about everybody else out there, but I'm feeling pretty undefeated right now.
Yeah. Not a loss in sight, taking down the Raiders. The Raiders.
I was talking about Lynxer's Widowmaker. Oh, yeah, you're right. I guess you're right about that, too. Yeah, no, super pumped, obviously, about both things. We'll get more into the Lynxer stuff soon. But, yeah, I'll start things off here with the what did I do this week? Was in the woods all weekend, actually, camping. This is the camping trip, using finger quotes on that I do with some old college friends, where we get a cabin at a state park and then stay indoors 100% of the time playing board games and stuff. But we get the big one with a fireplace, so that we still need to spend money on firewood.
Something remotely outdoors-ish.
Yeah, it's almost camping.
It's glamping. It's glamping.
A little bit. But yeah, so had a lot of fun doing that. It was really nice to unplug for the weekend. But yeah, I had even had the day off today from work, get caught up on everything, get my sleep back to normal, and as normal as my sleep.
I was gonna say, I don't know if your sleep is ever normal.
No, not quite, but it's okay now. Yeah, just been having a good time lately.
Good stuff. Yeah, for me, did I do anything interesting or exciting? No, just casting other games as always. Mostly just Legends of Runeterra. And let's see, to do anything fun at all? No, I don't think so. I think I think it's gonna get officially announced this week. But I have a new job. I started a new job.
I was wondering if you were gonna mention it.
I think. It's not that it's a secret or anything. It's just that there's gonna be an announcement video that I think is gonna be funny. So I want to keep it for that. But whatever. I got a new job. It is in the gaming and esports world. So that's cool. I've been super busy with that, and that's been fun. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing is that and the same old stuff I'm always doing. But
well, congratulations on that. I know it's not a small accomplishment to have a job in an industry that you don't hate.
Yeah.
So that's obviously
true.
Great. Super happy for you there. And yeah, keep an eye on his Twitter account. There should be, it'll have his face on it, so that instantly makes it a meme.
True.
And it'll be funny, I'm sure. So I look forward to that and get details there.
I was originally going to do like an original piece, and then I'm like, I just, I'm too lazy sometimes to do them. But there was some inspiration that struck, and I think the graphics team is going to put something together, which is going to be funny. So keep an eye out. I'll retweet it and all that stuff. And if you
fancy guy with a graphics team over here.
Oh yeah, I am fancy now. Who am I kidding? But yeah, so that should be cool. And yeah, that was fun. If you're really interested and can't possibly wait to hear about it, just DM me on Discord. It's not like it's a secret or NDA or anything. I just am, I'm saving the official public announcement for their Twitter. So, but speaking of cool things and things going as normal, Blackwatch Report, of course, always up and at them, ready with a new episode. Just went up last night, so check them out. make sure you're checking them out on their podcast feed, Blackwatch Report. Blackwatch Report everywhere except for Twitter, where it's Blackwatch Report. Thank you, Thorne, for that. Someday maybe we'll get that extra. You'll get that extra. Oh, maybe. I doubt it. But let's move on here, Death, and let's get into
It's high news.
We have got some news, Death. Do you want to start? Do you want to start with our own internal news?
Yes, our own internal news that I'm very aware of. And
it's not. It's not really our internal news. It's really the league copying our.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, the Owlies were such an unqualified success, I think is the correct terminology to use there. Just so critically acclaimed and so positively received by all Overwatch League fans that the league has decided to copy some of our awards and assigned some Coach of the Years. The Dennis Haleka Award winner and the Rookie of the Year were announced. I believe all of them were announced this past weekend. And Moon won Coach of the Year. So, I mean, we even gave you the right answer, and you still got it wrong. No, Moon was one of our nominees as well. A great one. McGravy won the Dennis Haleka Award. I have no comment. You see my comments from last year about what that award turned into and what it could have been. But major props for getting the Halsey retweet. That is what that's about now. And then Alarm is the Rookie of the Year. That one was a little bit of a no-brainer, to be perfectly honest. When you're a rookie and squarely and very significantly in the MVP running, then you really should win this one. I really liked his announcement video. I don't know if you saw it, but made me like the player a little bit more, just kind of his attitude about the whole thing. Like, when he was asked about it, he said, I care about this almost more than I care about the MVP award. I've got a lot of cracks to try to win the MVP award. I only get one go at Rookie of the Year. And so I think that was just a really good attitude from him about it. And then you could see when they told him, obviously the emotion, he was, really a little overwhelmed there. And it's got to be great to put in all that hard work and get some form of accolades or, acknowledgement of that. And I thought he was, really gracious and accepting, everything like that, and quick to put a lot of the credit and accolades onto his teammates, et cetera. So it was a very professional kind of response and a very mature attitude towards the whole awards process. And it just really made me like Alarm a little bit more. I mean, if his play wasn't enough, he does seem like somebody that really gets what the league is about and going for, and has the right attitude about everything, and should continue to be great. And hopefully he does get the MVP award in the future. Just keep it up, man. He's been great.
I mean, Fletta's got to retire at some point, right?
it's got to happen.
But yeah, I think it's interesting that you point that out, Death, because it's almost refreshing to see an esports athlete like take a more because like the things that you're saying are not like revolutionary, right? Like we see this is the mainstay for traditional sports. It's like the PR answer, but like you can give the PR answer and still put your own spin on it and your own emotion on it, and it can still be true. It's just like, I don't know. I've almost, and maybe it's because we're boomers now, or maybe it's just, or maybe it's because we're deadened to the I'm just so over the I don't know. I'll call it the live stream fails, mentality of everything, where it's just like, oh well, I'm gonna say something stupid here, or I'm gonna try to cause. I'm going to try to cause something out of nothing. And it's like, sometimes you can just give the professional answer and be fine. So I don't know. I liked it from that aspect.
My kind of add-on was going to be that, I mean, there's definitely more than one way you can go about doing this. And his kind of his answers, his the way he portrayed it and himself in that situation was a little bit the cookie cutter way, but you definitely need both, right? Because without having the cookie cutter way be the norm, then the other people that are a little more outlandish aren't as interesting, or it really just kind of almost waters it down in its own way.
Yeah.
So it's great to see, you know, this kind of attitude and mentality recognized. I think it only enhances anybody that's goofy about it in the future. I'm trying to think if anybody really was goofy about it, though. Not really.
No, not in this case. I'm just thinking, and I'm not even necessarily thinking about Overwatch specifically. I'm just thinking about like in general. It's like not everyone.
Sinatra was like a little bit arrogant about it after the fact, but like kind of gracious in the moment, which was called for. I think he definitely handled it a little different with MVP. You know, and then to me, it's weird when you are hearing the acceptance speeches and stuff, and maybe this is a mark that I'm getting used to that a little bit and can like listen to the message. But like when it comes through a translator, and then when you're hearing the words, the emotion is 1 degree separated, and you're trying to like apply the inflection in the language you don't understand to the more deadpan words coming from. So maybe like it's not fair to say that Jonak wasn't exactly that way, or you know, anything like that. And obviously this is a different award. I just don't really remember the rookie of the years in the past, and first season didn't have one because a rookie won MVP and was everybody, so the award didn't make much sense there. So yeah, I don't really remember. I mean, I remember who won last year. I just don't remember anything about the unveiling or the announcement. So yeah, I don't know. It was just a good job overall by production, maybe to help things out. But yeah, I just really did enjoy the award announcements and videos this time around for sure.
Yep, that was good. Oh, one other piece of news, Death, that we didn't put on here, but did happen is, or at least was reported. I actually don't know if it was confirmed or not, but Pete Vlastelica, I think is the name, has stepped down as the Overwatch League commissioner. So we will no longer have Pete V as the commissioner of the Overwatch League. So I think there's I saw a report, though I don't know if it was confirmed, that the commissioner of the Call of Duty League is getting a title change to Commissioner of Leagues, which you can maybe at Activision. So maybe that is like joint role, which seems awful, but at the very least, Death, we no longer we aren't going back to the glory days of Nate Nanzer, but at least we don't have Handsome Pete as our commissioner anymore.
Yeah. In unrelated news, he's signed a contract with the Washington Justice for an exorbitant amount of money. That's so weird how that works out.
Just for the playoffs, though.
Takes off his mask and it's actually Decay under there. You know, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm fine with this. There's been a couple things. Obviously, I'm making light of the most recent incident that bothered me, but we went from, if not agreeing with almost every single decision that was made, being able to understand and wrap our heads around and
see where it was going,
make the argument for it, and all league decisions for the most part, as the league was formed under Nate and as it started to grow, that's not really been the case. And from the introduction of adding, throwing away the standings and adding in the wins to the tournaments, et cetera, like I get it, people like them, but like they don't have to have that component. People love the stage championships too. So I really do hope, I know there's so many people out there that are like, oh, I hope we don't get another sports person in that doesn't understand esports. We're not necessarily in that camp. I'm completely fine if this is a sports figure coming in to take it over. I tend to think it's going to be a combination of two things. You talked about the kind of promotion or title change or bump for the COD commissioner to kind of being more overarching in Activision. I'm guessing that might be, I don't know anything about her personally, or even I didn't follow COD League. I have no knowledge whatsoever of her performance there. But I'm guessing you'll have like an overarching commissioner that makes like business decisions, and then you'll have somebody overseeing each of the leagues individually and more personally, and perhaps being more accessible or what have you. So we'll see who takes that role in that position, and maybe that's the perfect marriage, right? You get kind of both of those things working together, and somebody with maybe the better business acumen or whatever is kind of over top of them, but a lot just constantly forcing them to hear from those esports people and constantly have that influence put into them about the decisions and what they think the fans would like. Maybe that's how you do it, right? Not one or the other. Maybe it's finding a way to force them to kind of marry into one decision-making tree and decision-making process. I think that there's potentially something to that. So we'll see how it all plays out. We'll let you guys know. But for the most part, I think we'll save most of this stuff. And there's other announcements. There's coaching changes and teams that aren't in the grand finals, things like that. It's all on pause for us right now. We're going to focus on the tournament in front of us this weekend. And we've got a whole off season to fill dead air and find things to talk about. So yeah, we will save things for that when we start off from our off season discussions.
The only thing, and we'll certainly be talking about the commissioner change quite a bit, especially once an official announcement has happened and also once decisions or actions are starting to be taken. I will say that there was a pretty big, without going too deep into it, there was a pretty big rift in the Call of Duty League with like something they changed like right at the end in terms of format. So
roster size even, right?
Yeah.
You went from like 6 or 5 or
went
something.
From 5s to 4s. Yeah. It's like, that's that's pretty egregious and awful. So I'll withhold further judgment until then, and we'll certainly be talking more about that. I just wanted to bring that up in case you missed it. But if you don't want to miss these things, make sure you're going over to the Discord, discord.me/highnoonpodcast, because all of those announcements are there all the time. Okay, let's now move on into, oh God, I forgot what button it is already. I think it's this one.
It's tournament talk.
I got the button right. I'm so happy. We had the talent takedown in the All-Star game, Death. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I always poke fun at these things. I always talk about how like they aren't for me. They're never something I'm going to care about or be super interested in. I'm not going to back off of that stance quite yet, and again, I was in the woods when everything was happening. I obviously didn't watch it live. I caught up after the fact. So I don't know how the overall flow of the broadcast was, etc. But it was, to me, pretty entertaining for what it was. I really did enjoy the talent takedown. They always do a really good job with that. It's just fun to get to watch the people that we have to hear all the time actually play. Yeah, and that one's always a good watch. You can check that out.
They super try hard it too, which is fun.
They do, yeah. They care, and then they continue to roast each other about it until the next one comes along, and that's obviously great overall for all broadcasts and for the whole scene. So really like that. And Team Jake defeated Team Custa in the talent takedown there. So I thought that was obviously, I mean, I'm a Jake fan. I'm a Houston fan over a Valiant fan. That's well documented. So
true.
1-0 for the Outlaws here on the weekend. Linkser, the Titan Slayer, works his way through a bracket full of Vancouver Titans players into the grand finals and defeats Soon in the Widowmaker 1v1 challenge, or I don't remember the name of the actual event. Notably, where 3/4 of the talent that should have been in the Widowmaker 1v1 was on the Korean side of things, where DM took down Ons in the Korean bracket. I will say, despite the obvious, like, I don't know, lack of balance in the talent
Right.
in the brackets for the Widow 1v1. I thought the NA side was more entertaining. Linkser particularly was just like really aggressive about it and was just forcing fights, and there was a lot more like quick peek and corner scraping and just like kind of cowardly play is how I'm going to call it in the Korean side. So it was, at least to me, more fun to watch on the NA side of things. Obviously helps that my boy won. Notably as well, Linkser does accept all challengers. He also absolutely embarrassed, humiliated, and styled on the Britomaker, including the final kill being a 360 quickscope headshot to kill Bren while he was in midair. It was phenomenal. And it was a whole really fun sequence the way they did that. I mean, Bren is such an obvious like wrestling meme character when he does these things. They had him like forcibly throw Jaws off the stage on the broadcast because they're in the same house, and they were able to make do with the COVID restrictions and still have a lot of fun with it and still bring out this element. And shout outs to Linkser. Proud outs. I was very proud of shouting out Linkser for his multiple swear words on the broadcast that got out there.
Yeah,
you just had to know the censor guys like in the bathroom, like, it's Linkser, it's Linkser and Frankie. What do I have to worry about? Whoops.
See, that's what I thought a few episodes ago. Where it's like, we've done what 220 episodes. I haven't sworn on it. Wow.
Turns out everybody's human, and let's one slip on occasion.
True.
That was really funny to me.
It's okay. I get one every 220 episodes, so I just barely made the quota.
It's true. And to think I was the one with the problem when we started. Not that surprising. But anyways, in addition to that, I've got to say just the actual like Team Reinhardt versus Team Diva. It was really weird that they were still putting like the Atlantic and Pacific brackets when you've got like Smoth teabagging on, or Super teabagging on Moth.
Yeah.
I'm just mushing every word in the Super would like kill Moth and then dove after him and teabagged on him. And they're in the same team. They're in the same division. So why are you trying to make this distinction? It just didn't make any sense. But nonetheless, it was a really good time. And it ended with the most glorious thing I've ever seen, which was like the little Overwatch or whatever the actual terminology for it is,
so
where everybody starts like microscopic and the first fight is impossible to cast. Poor Reinforce and Sideshow trying to get the job done. And then like the more damage you deal, the bigger your character model grows.
Yes.
And you had divas that couldn't fit through doors anymore by the end of this thing. And like it just, the whole time, like this little Reaper just walks up, ding, 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 and just shreds it into oblivion.
Oh, it's so good.
And it just created these really awkward, super long fights that just was absolutely hysterical to watch and witness. You'd have Super like purposefully hiding, not participating in the fight so that he would stay really tiny and his team would lose. And then they've got to find this little pea-sized marble of a wrecking ball somewhere on the map, hiding in a corner somewhere, and then they've got to kill him. And like all the abilities changed in size based off of how much damage you were doing.
Yeah.
So Diva Blast would become just absolutely enormous. And you'd have little tiny baby ones that were like smaller than Winston Shields, like just EMPs doing the same thing. It was hysterical to witness and watch, and I really enjoyed the agony that it put the players through. They hated it. It was, I think Super said, this is my own personal hell or something like that in the match chat. Like it just, and I loved that there was like 75 grand up for grabs or however much money it was. Them fighting over a significant amount of money. These professional players that take their craft so seriously reduced to just tiny sombras, the character model so insignificant next to like just the juxtaposition of everything. Absolutely tickled me in just the right way. I really got a lot of sadistic pleasure watching that. I'm buying into the all-star format a little bit more as they stretch it out. I mean, listen, not everything's a winner,
Right.
Go watch the Winston 1v1. We're not gonna see that skills
still going
challenge
on.
ever again. It was awful, but you know, other things absolutely hit perfectly. That was one of them for me. I hope that never goes anywhere. And
I mean, this is what we talked about this pretty much every year with the All-Star game. It's like, I mean, it's just kind of boring. It's just like a low stakes, or even if there's money on the line, like who really even cares? It's just like a different game of Overwatch. Now, it's another game of Overwatch, right? With the teams, and like that's great, but like, you know, it takes a little bit. And now with the workshop, of course, there's so many opportunities, right? The Tiny Overwatch seems like a hit. The Widowmaker 1v1, I think, is a good, like, it's like the 3-point contest kind of thing, right? It's like no one cares that much, or like a very small segment of people care about like the ball handling obstacle course that it maybe is at the NBA All-Star game or whatever, right? Or like the different don't they have like different challenges and whatnot at the Pro Bowl too, I think. Maybe, I don't know.
There's a skills competition for sure. Yeah.
Where like that's, you know, not everything can be the dunk contest or the home run derby. Like you need to figure out what those things are. And it's not a direct correlation, but maybe the Tiny Overwatch is like it's the dunk contest of the Overwatch League All-Star game, where it's like, this is entertaining, it's different, it's what we want to see, etc. So hey, you know, we
who would have thought the key to unlocking everything was just making the players as miserable as humanly possible. Just make it as, I'll just run them through an absolute ringer, and then that becomes gold. And I loved it. I mean, and it's so funny, the overtime matches, because it was such an advantage to be small, and it was such a disadvantage to be that big. You know, you're playing Reapers and Doomfists, and you couldn't possibly miss the diva when you were the baby Reaper, right? Like it just, and watching them just run up and like bite at the ankles of the big character models, everything about it was just I was hysterical the entire time. And even to the point where they're making fun of how long it's taking on the broadcast, and like you've got Sideshow wondering what the overtime pay policy is for casters, because, like in the middle of a 99.99 fight that had gone on for 13 minutes. I mean, it was perfection to me. I loved everything about it. Great job by the casters. It was Reinforced and Sideshow. Reinforced. It's not his typical gig either, so I thought he did a really good job. And I like them mixing it up a little bit with them guys too, letting them in on that, have some fun with it. I guess Reinforced had like neighbors complaining because he was yelling about how insane it was for so long. But it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, good on the production, good on obviously the casters, and just good. You know, it's good to get these W's for the All-Star game, because you know beforehand, you know, we've never really been. I mean, we've been pretty public about it. We've never really been a fan of it. And I remember specifically saying they need to figure out what is the home run derby of Overwatch. And like, again, I don't think that this is the same corollary, and like this isn't like the same display of skills and like that, but this is a win. This is a fun thing. Let's keep going, push that. So that's cool and good. So if you didn't check it out and you want to, make sure at least check out the Tiny Overwatch. I was watching a little bit beforehand, and it did not disappoint. But Death, let's move on here. The meat and potatoes of the episode. Oh, let's break it down. Grand Finals time. We are finally here, Death, through thick and thin, through COVID, through all that has happened. We have finally made it. We are here. Grand Finals weekend coming up, October 8th through 10th. 4 teams remain. Let's talk about it, Death.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the weekend we've all been waiting for, if not the time slot we're dreading trying to watch live at. But yeah, we're going to be going through all 4 of the both of the matchups that we know about so far. And we're basically going to build out our bracket as we go and talk about each matchup as it comes. And we'll be pretty heavy on the starting matchups because we know what those are. They're not a waste of time.
Right.
And we'll gloss over some of the other ones since they may not actually occur. But I don't know about you, man, but I really don't have a firm grasp on who the actual winner is going to be here. We'll go over kind of what my current thinking is, what my thoughts are on the teams and the matchups, how they're going to handle things, and what they're going to try to play. But I think there's rosters here where I wouldn't be surprised to see significant change-ups in who's actually on the stage. And there's a couple good candidates for that. We'll talk about that as well. But I guess at the beginning, should we just kind of make a prediction for who we think is going to be the overall winner here? Just kind of go in blind with it?
Just
who you got?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Well, yeah,
okay.
You start.
All right. Well, as you know, I am, although my camera went out so you can't see, and also I was wearing a hoodie over it, but I am wearing an NYXL jersey and have almost been brought to tears, Death, because the Shanghai Dragons are going to win the championship here. I mean, like you said, Death, all these teams could certainly get there. I would not be surprised if someone from the future showed me I was going to say newspaper, but that would never happen. An article from
Sports article.
Yeah, a .esports article that says any one of these teams has won the championship. It would not be a big surprise. I would not be taken aback. All four of these teams are certainly there. But Shanghai, of course, it's going to be said about 1,000 times until they lose, if they lose. 0-40 to Overwatch League champions. That's what's going to be said a million times. It's the narrative. If I were one of the casters, I would sure be doing it too. It's the big storyline, the macro storyline that's hitting you square in the jaw. But outside of that, because that doesn't really matter, right? Like that doesn't change anything. The fact that they went 0-40 2 years ago has nothing to do with the team they are now.
I was gonna say it also skips a year because it's less interesting to say from 0-40 to middle of the pack to top of the heap,
right.
When you actually lay out all the steps that occurred,
right,
it is a little less fantastic.
Right. But outside of that, you've got the league MVP on your team. You've shown time and time again this is the first time we're going to be seeing the regions face off since the very beginning, right? Actually, yeah, since the very beginning of the league.
They mixed a little bit, I think, at the first couple.
For all intents and purposes, this is the first time we're seeing this mix happen. So there could be, and it's still an unanswered question, Death, a big difference between the leagues, right? We don't know. You can watch the games, you can see the teams play against the teams that they've played against all season. That doesn't really matter when you face against a team from another division. All bets are off, especially when you add in the pressures of the tournament. That being said, Shanghai has shown time in and time out that they've been able to perform. Yes, they've had some blips in some high-pressure situations. The Shang 9 that you like to bring up, Death, certainly has got to be on the minds of everyone. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to repeat it. If anything, that should be on their minds, and they should be even more cognizant to not do that. So I don't know.
Or they're under more pressure to not do that.
It could go either way for sure. I'll give you that. But it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a learning experience, a jumping off point. All that being said, my solid pick is going to be the Shanghai Dragons to win it here. I will be wearing an NYXL jersey, and I will be brought to tears.
I'm excited for it. I can't wait to make fun of you. Personally, it's funny. I would use a lot of the same reasonings to kind of explain why I think the San Francisco Shock are about to repeat as champions of the league. But to be perfectly honest, it's more about the last time we did see them kind of all together on a level playing field, who was the best team. And obviously it's not about who's the most improved team. It's about how they stack up now. Right. And I have a really hard time getting myself to a place where the San Francisco Shock are going to be out of their depth against any opponent at any time. That's in large part due to the coaching, in part due to the experience of having been there before. And I think that that's really going to help boost them and kind of keep them from maybe underperforming a little early on, like you might see. That is obviously a boon for Seoul, who's done it as well, basically, right? Like when you buy the season 1 champions after season 2, you bring that pedigree in, you bring that experience into your roster. That's a large part of the reason why we liked those signings when they were made. So I do have San Francisco winning the whole thing here, like I said, but yeah, it's going to be crazy close, and I think we should really dig into some of these matchups. So we'll start here with the Seoul Dynasty going against the San Francisco Shock. I just brought it up and mentioned it, and this one is, I think, a really interesting clash of styles. And when I talked about the teams that I thought were possible, or not likely, but possible candidates to replace players on the roster and who they brought in, I think you have to look at the Seoul Dynasty as somebody that's shown a propensity to want to do that in the past. They're, whether it's smart or not, has never really factored in for the Seoul Dynasty coaching staff. And I think we see now, are they going to be keeping the 2 main tanks in the roster? Are they going to keep playing this double off tank style that they really liked? Is it going to be that much Roadhog and Diva for them? Or are they going to give in and join the ranks of the dive of the other 3 teams that are here? Maybe with a longer group of time to really set that up, that's a direction they go. And I think we have to consider what that would look like. And obviously they brought in Tuyu to play the off tank position.
I picked the wrong off button. I picked playoff. That was dumb. I got the wrong button.
The playoffs are over, man. We're in the finals. We don't need that.
I thought I was going to bring it up at least once.
But I really want to see Tuyu come back in and play alongside Gesture in a dive composition. I think that really would give the Seoul Dynasty kind of their maximum unlock potential. It gives them the best configuration of their roster. And there's also the question of Bedosin versus Creative on the support line. I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see that switch up, whether on a map by map basis based off the picks, or just maybe Bedosin was cold when they originally made that decision and he's running hot now. I really don't know. But yeah, and listen, it's been a while. The metagame might evolve, right? Somebody might come out with a whole new strategy. It could have gotten to all the teams, one of the teams. We really don't know. And the kind of the patch we're playing on is old news at this point, right? It's a couple away from live, I think, at this point, and it's not one where anybody but these 4 teams and the people they're playing against are really kind of living in that world and scrimming and practicing on it. So things get interesting when you really narrow down the scope of teams participating in a meta, and it could really shake things up. So I think there's a lot to question about Seoul, and I don't really have any of those questions for the San Francisco Shock. They change players, right? Like we could find them in a meta game where they want to play super over Smurf on main tank, or some maps where that's the case. We saw that throughout the playoffs, but it's a plan.
Playoff. Yes, got value out of it.
You gotta get some use out of it, right? So yeah, I just don't have those questions about San Francisco, and Seoul is. If there's one team here that doesn't belong, it is the Seoul Dynasty. You do see that a little bit. I mean, they're the eighth seed in the league in the overall standings, and that's significantly off of what the other teams are, which I want to say I'm going there to confirm.
One, 2 or 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 is, or 1, 2, 3, I should say, is the other 3 teams, and then you go down. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not even 8th. They're 11th here on the actual standings from what I'm seeing. So it's a story of the Seoul Dynasty season is so back heavy. It's so much on their performance in those playoffs. And you want to get it in one more time just to make sure?
Yeah, I do.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it.
It's so much about their performance there in those playoffs, and not really about having that firm track record, that it inspiring overall record that you look at. I mean, they're 12-12. They're losing as often as they win over the course of the year, and that's not usually a recipe for a championship.
Right.
Is I guess what I'm getting at.
50% win rate is not where you think of champion caliber teams.
No, it might be, an accurate representation of a ladder experience, but that isn't what this is. This is a league, and that means they dropped a lot of their games. And maybe, like you said, maybe the Asia region's better, so they cut their teeth against better opponents all year, and this will be easy. But how can you really think that with the performance of San Francisco over the course of 2 seasons? They just really never let off their foot off the brakes here. They're 3 losses on the standings. They're as good as it gets here. And I think we're going to start to be talking about them in terms of, no pun directed at the opponent here, but in terms of a dynasty.
Yeah.
Are they a team that can maintain this success? And you're going to see teams try to mirror what they're doing if they're not already. And I think this is going to be the first match that really kicks that off. So like I said, I've got them winning the tournament. So I've got them winning this matchup for sure. And I don't know, any takeaways, or what are you really watching as we get to see our first mix of the regions?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we see the region difference at all. Is there going to be anything that's markedly different between the play styles? Because you can, like I said, you can watch all of the NA and then all of the Asia region. You can point out differences, but like there's so much. For lack of a better, I mean, it's there's so much metagaming inside of it, and knowing your opponent and having played against them and being used to that, it can just be different, right? Like it can just be a different experience. You can watch all the tape in the world; it doesn't matter necessarily when you get into the game. You mentioned that Seoul's performance has been so back heavy in terms of back of the season. And yeah, that obviously you look at San Francisco and they've just been consistent throughout. But like in a format like this, in a scenario like this, it doesn't matter if it's only back heavy, as long as it's back heavy up until the end, right? Like you can spike a tournament here for sure. These are really just points of maybe hope potentially for a Seoul Dynasty fan, but let's be serious, Death. If you're picking against the San Francisco Shock in this matchup, you are picking with your heart, not necessarily the brain. It's not, I don't even want to put it like that, because again, any of these matches can go either way, but it is very, very difficult for me to pick against the Shock here. They're the pinnacle of an Overwatch League team right now, and I imagine they're going to continue that here.
Yeah, everybody's got the puncher's chance, etc. And this is the most lopsided matchup, I think. But it's just a matter of confidence percentage, right? Like you're not. It's by no means we're saying that it would be insane that if they won, right, or I'd fall out of my chair or anything. But San Francisco they adapt so well on the fly, right, and so really the chance here for Seoul and the path to victory is they have to get out to a fast start. They have to just put San Francisco on the back foot, so that they have to be absolutely perfect, and then you have to not let them be perfect. And by that I mean you have to capitalize on the small mistakes that they make. If they start to rally, you really have to go out of your way to close it out and put an end to it. But it's all going to be dependent on, like, I'll know if there's really any chance for Seoul, I feel like, after the first map's over.
Right.
If it's decisive in Seoul's favor, they've got a chance to win a close one. If it's close, then I'm assuming it's going to be like 3-1 San Francisco. Right. And if San Francisco wins the first map, I think it's just about over. You'll have to kind of tilt San Francisco a little bit in that way, I think, in order to throw them off their game and to get them to do some uncharacteristic things. So big favorites there for me in SF.
I think so. I think so as well. Okay. The next match, which again is the only other match that we have guaranteed to play out, is Philadelphia versus the Shanghai Dragons. Much like you, Death, I am obviously picking the Shanghai Dragons, or much like you in that I picked Shanghai to win the event, so I'm picking them to win here. I'm picking Shanghai. I do think that this is much closer than the previous matchup, however. I do think that the difference between Philly and Shanghai is much closer. And again, any of these matchups can have a puncher's chance anywhere. I'm just leaning more towards Shanghai. It's tough, man. I mean, that's the beauty of a playoffs, like, or of a grand finals bracket like this. Death is like, you kind of second guess yourself on almost all of these. It's like, man, any one of these teams could win the whole thing, but I'm leaning towards Shanghai here.
Yeah, I am as well. Listen, if for no other reason, the stakes aren't high enough for them to collapse on themselves because there's still room to fail. It's got to be all or nothing in order to get that kind of pressure on Shanghai. They've been very consistent throughout the year, and obviously their talent's well documented. You've got they swept like the kind of role-based MVP awards we did in the Owlies. They just went across the board until the coach of the year, but even he was a finalist. There's so much positivity surrounding this team. Anybody that watches them, anybody that has any kind of inside information feels they're the best team in the league, and we don't have any of that. And so I really want to see it with my own eyes before I'm willing to say that. And Philly will be a great first test for them, but to me this is more about Philly still has, it's crazy to say it and it's gonna bother people. Philly still has a little bit to prove to me to prove that they absolutely belong in the championship contention, like favorites to win it, right? How can they be when, and it's not a problem of theirs, it's nothing they've done wrong. They've been great, they've been very consistent, but the one area that they don't seem consistent to me is against other elite teams. I went back in the schedule before the show and I was looking at when they played against elite opponents, as I'd call them. So when did they play against San Francisco? Because it was really a 2-horse race in the NA side of things. They got the 3-0 win against them the one time, but they are 1-3 overall in the series. So the losses weren't very, very convincing. They had an 0-3. They did have a 2-4 loss there, and then another 1-3 loss. So when they beat San Francisco, they did do it convincingly. That shows they've got the talent, the ability to, on any day, beat anybody. To me, you don't shut out a team like San Francisco without having the capability to take down anyone. But I'm just not sure that they're even confident in what they are in a situation like this. They did obviously make it into the grand finals in season 1, so there's a lot of experience. I don't think the stage will be too big for them. I think there's enough carryover from that initial squad, even if they're on the bench, just kind of helping keep people focused in scrims or whatever. You don't have to yourself be experienced in it. You just need people around you that can check your emotions and keep you honest and keep you performing at your best. And so I don't think it's going to be a stage 2 bright moment, but it's just a matter of a gut check of playing against the absolute best over the course of an entire weekend like this is something they really haven't had to do as a group. So I do expect them to drop this one and fall into the losers bracket. So yeah, I'll take Shanghai here as well.
Okay. So we have in our made up bracket, we have San Francisco beating Seoul, Shanghai beating Philly. No upset here. Let's move down to we're just gonna follow through with our bracket here, Death. Let's go to the losers bracket first. Seoul versus Philly. Who do you have?
I'm going to take Philly in this one. I do think Seoul is going to be kind of the odd man out. And until I see them play a comp other than the double off tank, I assume that's what they're going to run. And if my memory is correct, and I'm double checking it to make sure that it is, the Philadelphia Fusion were the ones that beat the miracle run of the Washington Justice.
I believe so as well.
Oh, you got to scroll sideways on the bracket to find that one. Yeah, they shut it down 3-0. It's just a matter of I think they really understand how to beat the Roadhog based compositions, and they really only stumbled against San Francisco. That was their only loss. So I don't know that Seoul really is on the same level as these guys at the moment. So it's not a matter of can they beat one of the elite teams. It's can they beat a hot team? Can they beat a team that is performing well with an offbeat strategy and figure that out and put it down? And this is the same meta when they just did it before against a team that was just as hot as this one is. So I don't have any reason to expect Philadelphia to falter here, other than it would have to be like, to me, an emotional issue after having a loss, and it's spiraling and it, the stakes of things there. But like I said, there's enough leadership and things, and there's enough experience in that room, that I don't really fear that. So it could certainly happen, but not anything I'm gonna bet on or predict.
Yep. No, I agree with you there. I think, Philly, they almost, if I had to make well, there's only 4 teams, so making like an underdog pick isn't really, they're not really underdogs as much, but I think they're they might be my second pick here, even over San Francisco if I had to pick one. I really do like what Philly's doing. I think that they have, a really good chance here. And I mean, hey, they could upset Shanghai easily in the first round. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with Philly here as well. Let's now go. So we would then have Shanghai versus San Francisco on the winner's side. Death, the big guns, the two number 1 seeds from their regions. Who do you have in this one?
I'm going to go with the surprise pick, and I'm going to take the Shanghai Dragons, knocking the San Francisco Shock into the losers bracket. I think San Fran has to rally back from the losers bracket. I think that'll really help strengthen them if it does happen, right? Like they did that last year. They dropped to Atlanta, moved forward. They got beat up by Philly right before the playoffs, and then came right back and looked great and beat them in the playoffs. It's a little bit their MO, right? And there's a lot to this. I mean, granted, some of these players are going home to participate in this event and others aren't, but there's that travel element. They're away from their comfort zone, and I could easily see, I mean, nobody's going to look at either roster and say either team's outmatched here. So you have to view this one as a very close matchup, as close to 50-50 coin flip territory as you can probably get. But I think when you stack up some of the other factors, and you really look at it, you're talking about 2 evenly matched teams, one of which didn't just quarantine for 2 weeks and didn't fly across the country to get ready and is working on their home base setups, and nothing has changed for them from the regular season, and another one that has all that extra stuff to keep them from maybe being fully in the mindset that they need to be in to just tune it all out and focus on their own gameplay. So yeah, like I said, as coin flippy as it's ever been, I think, for picking a match. But when I really dig down into it, there's a couple more challenges that San Francisco has to deal with here. And they might need to take a punch on the chin to be able to take it home anyways, just from a mentality standpoint. It fits them.
Yeah, I mean, I am also taking the Shanghai W here. I'm picking them to win it all. I do think that it's going to depend. That this would obviously be a huge match, of course, right? It could set the tone. Like, how does the loser of this match bounce back? Is it a San Francisco like we saw last year, like you said, Death, where they lose and they literally don't lose from that time that we saw, the life leave from the innocence leave Moth's face, right? Does that happen, or do they crumble? Like, it's not necessarily the same. Yes, they've got some of the best players, they've got some of the best coaching, but like, also people can just crumble in a situation like that, even if they've been clutch before. Not that you bet on it, but it certainly could happen. It's so hard to call it. I just want to see the match, to be completely honest. But I am gonna pick Shanghai.
We're gonna win that one if it happens, no matter what.
Yeah, no matter who wins, we win. Okay, which would mean Philly versus San Francisco in the losers bracket. Of course, Death, you have San Francisco winning the whole thing, so it stands to reason that you're picking San Francisco to win this one.
Yeah, it's historically, it's just the way it's gone, right? There is the 3-0 outlier, but like I said, three of the four times they played, it went handily to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Philly's a really strong team. I talked previously when we did the strengths and weaknesses of the rosters about what I would call a main tank difference there. And when you really take two teams that are super well coached and really talented across the roster, and then you try to find those things that break the ties and make you pick a favorite over the other. Obviously, a track record of wins is a really big factor here, but you just 1v1 across the board. You look at each roster position and who stands across from them, and the biggest gap to me is the duo of Super and Smurf always playing their optimal characters and never seeming to underperform or having it matter that they took 2 maps off and are being subbed in or whatever. It's always worked for them. They're always prepared. They've got that plan figured out, and they execute it better than anybody else that's really tried to do it. It really gives them an edge over a team like Philly, who if there's a spot on their roster where questionable decisions or mistakes come from, that is where it is, and he's cleaned them up tremendously from the past. I'm not discounting what he's been able to do and the turnaround that Sato's been able to make, but it shouldn't be crazy for anybody to hear that maybe he's not the top, maybe he's not in the top 3 of main tanks on some people's lists. And that's the case for me. So, and Super is one of the top tier Reinhardts, and you've got a top tier Winston and Smurf as well. So I think there's a couple other spots where maybe the advantage goes in the other direction, but I don't know that the gap is ever larger than it is there. So I'm going to invoke the main tank difference on this one and give the win to San Francisco.
So I'm actually going to divert here, and I'm going to pick a huge upset of the San Francisco Shock actually not even making it into the finals here. Philly pulling it through. It's a tough one to make, but I'm not even going to go too much into it, because we'll use your bracket as the official High Noon Podcast prediction. But my personal prediction is we're going to see Philadelphia and Shanghai playing again in the grand finals. But
I hope our listeners won't let you get away with this. He just said, I'm going to take all accountability or responsibility out of this pick whatsoever, and then just throw the underdog at you. I mean, this is another one. Like we talked about it before, San Francisco versus Shanghai. The only reason this isn't like a 50-50 coin flip to me is that we do have a little bit of track record with it. So that does keep it from being just as close as the other one. But it would feel, and we often, I think, get tagged for like piling on or calling something maybe imbalanced, or it feeling that way when we talk about it, when we don't split our picks up. So for the sake of that, I think it's good, just because it really is. We're splitting hairs when we talk about this, right? If anybody's just playing a little bit better that day, one side or the other, then main tank difference goes out the window because alarms just popping off. And even though it's the widest gap when I look at the position margins, it's still not that wide of a gap, right? Like Sato is playing really, really well. He's a top 5 main tank in the league for me instead of a top 2 or 3 like he is for other people. And that difference disappears when you wake up in the morning sometimes. So
yeah, for sure. It absolutely can just be a game time difference, right? Like, and I'm really more just hoping I will it into existence, but
that's probably the more actually impactful bit of relevant information, is just like how they're feeling, how they are that day for almost all these matchups. That's part of why we were so pumped that these were the 4 teams that got picked, because this isn't like when we watched Dia put on the Widowmaker performance of a lifetime to not quite beat Houston in season 1 or whatever it was. Like none of these teams are that far apart, right? If Prophet is season 1 grand finals profit, then
Right.
they're beating San Francisco in that first match,
Yeah.
and the rest of it is irrelevant. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. Yeah, I'm a little glad we didn't just agree all the way down the line, but I don't want you to get away with just skirting all responsibility and accountability away.
It is gone. It is gone. Okay, but we will continue with yours, Death, which means the finals for you are going to be Shanghai versus the San Francisco Shock. I'm assuming there's no bracket reset because there doesn't look like there's one on the bracket, but for all the marbles, the final, the rematch of your previous record, you're picking San Francisco to turn it around here against Shanghai.
Yeah, absolutely. I do, at the end of the day, kind of think that the reason a turnaround like that would be possible, right? That if they're losing to Shanghai one day, on the next day, are they going to be able to beat them? The reason I say yes, it comes back down to the coaching staff. It comes down to the constant ability San Francisco's been able to show. Listen, hero pools have been a thing. They haven't responded perfectly to them every time. They haven't figured it out and nailed it going into every single tournament. But what did they do every single time? They found a way to make it work. They found a way to stop the resurgence of, the Washington Justice as they were down 2 maps against them, and right the ship and figure it out. There's absolutely magic in the entire organization for the San Francisco Shock. It's on a roster level, it's on a coaching level, it permeates throughout the whole building there. I really, you can tell we're sports people when you hear us talk about this stuff, but like, the culture there is one of success and of winning, and they're not gonna just sit back and go, oh, we got beat by these guys, and then they're not gonna show up. They're gonna come back harder and rebound from it, right? They're going to try to gain momentum off of a loss like that, and it doesn't have to go that way. That they get the win here. Obviously, I've got them losing the first matchup, but that's more of a testament to how close I think everything is between these two teams, and Philly and Seoul. If they can maintain their momentum, is right there too. It's a lot harder to do that after a month off, so I give them a little less credit than I give the other three, but. Yeah, listen, Shanghai can just step up and not have any problems. They could not collapse or not Shang 9 once the entire time, and I won't even be remotely surprised. But I also won't be surprised if they do it. And if they're going to do it, this is the time, right? And if you give San Francisco an inch, they take a mile every time. That's what their MO is. That's how they operate. And I've never seen them not find that opening, right? You leave a gap, they're pushing through it, they're going to find a way to make it work. So with the stakes, with everything, with San Fran being there, just needing to repeat, it does feel like it swings a little more in their favor when you up the ante and up the stakes. But again, this one, just like it was the first time they met in our bracket, it's 51-49.
Right.
It's who the heck knows. This is really the matchup I want to see. So maybe that's why I picked it this way, because I just want to see it twice.
Yeah. Well, we can continue on with my bracket. And actually, Death, in a true surprise that truly throws away any credibility or responsibility, I'm changing my pick. Philly comes back and wins it. They beat Shanghai in the finals. We're going to see it happen. Philadelphia Fusion are going to be your 2020 Overwatch League finalists. Did you really think I was going to go with Shanghai? Get out of here. It's Philly all the way.
He's not going to send you more sneakers.
I don't even care. I don't even need sneakers. I don't go outside. I don't need shoes.
You've already got them. Yeah, you can wear them around the house that day if they're in the championships.
Yeah.
I mean, truly a stunner. I'm surprised at how surprised I am. That's the most surprise that I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it really, we can't say it enough how close all three of these teams are. So the fact that you were able to talk yourself out of the pick you made at the top of the segment by the time we got to the end of the segment makes a lot of sense. And honestly, with any one of these matchups, I've looked at them. I went in with who I like my gut, who would win just by hearing the names, and then tried to look at some numbers and some history, and you end up changing your mind 4 times. They've all had great success throughout the season, and I'm really, really excited for this finals. We said it before, I'll say it again. Like this is the correct 4 teams. If you're gonna have an underdog, it better have profit on it. It better have gesture on it, who we've seen perform at the highest level when it mattered most in the postseason, make a championship run. Like everything about the 4 teams here, I don't think I could have picked better ones. Like Guangzhou could have just come out and been their normal, really good, like clear number 2 team in the region in the playoffs, but they didn't. And if they didn't, I don't want them here messing up with my, putting a meaningless game on the schedule. It's none of that should be here. I will take the 12-12 team with the clutch all-star performing players every time versus the upstart that collapsed when it mattered, right? Like that's not what we need. And I really, really want that end final, like throw out every other match, skip to the last one. I want that one to be like an esports all-timer. I want map 5, it's on Koth, it's 0.3, it's 99.99. I want Uber's voice cracking 19 times while he's screaming at the top of his lungs about the Carpe play that's happening, or the on snipes that are going on. Like, I don't care who it is, I don't care what the moment is. That to me is what I'm rooting for. Is none of the teams, none of the anything. I'm not going to the event, so there won't be any beard paint this time. There won't be any orange wigs. There won't be tactically crouching on any Vancouver Titans fans in the crowd. It will just be me wanting to see just a banger, an all-timer.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait for that. And we don't have to wait much longer, Death. 3 days till we start off the festivities, October 8th. So make sure you are checking it out. But that is going to be it for today's...
October 8th, real fast before we go. It's October 8th. It's Thursday. If you're East Coast Standard Time like us, that is 7 a.m. on Thursday morning.
Thursday morning, 7 a.m.
The next match is 9 a.m. on that Thursday, October 8th. So that's when those first 2 matchups are going. It gets worse on Friday. Bear with nobody. You're not going to be awake. You're going to have to watch it on VOD. 5 a.m. Friday, 7 a.m. Friday, 9 a.m. Friday, and then the actual grand final match is Saturday, 9 a.m. Adjust those times. Every time I just gave you is Eastern Standard Time because I'm not smart enough to convert it. And if I make a mistake on air, it messes with your information.
Yes.
But that's Eastern Standard Time local are the times. They're super, super difficult, but our Discord outside of the live tournament chat will be a safe place. We'll enforce that as best we can, though we won't be awake to enforce it, I guess. So we'll have to talk to anybody that will be and make sure. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to see these ones going.
Yes, absolutely. But that is going to be it for this episode. Death. Anything else before we get going here?
No, that's it. Good luck to all the teams, all the fan bases. We're really, really jealous of you is all I can say. We've wanted this for our teams for a while. So enjoy it. And for all of you, I hope your team wins.
Yes, I hope.
None of you are Boston fans or Washington fans.
Yes,
so I can say that honestly. I'm rooting for all of you.
So since none of us are, since neither of our teams are here, we can root for your team instead, and we hope that you get there. But that is going to be it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We're High Noon Podcast everywhere. High Noon Podcast, Twitter, Twitch, Patreon. You can find us there. Best place to find us, though, is discord.me/High Noon Podcast. But that's going to be it. Thank you again, everyone, for watching. For Deathblow, I'm the Blevins. And remember, it's High Noon.